There are two major free agents on the Formula One market right now, and apparently Williams want to sign both of them. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Racing Direct, and you heard that correctly. The names Adrian Newey and Carlos Sainz are both being targeted by Williams. Now, whether or not they can actually pull this off is a whole different question, but that's exactly what we're going to get into today. So make sure you hit subscribe, like the videos, leave your comments, and share the videos as well. Let's dive right into this. So just recently at the Miami Grand Prix, James Vowles gave us some pretty alarming news about who he was talking to in sort of light discussions, as he called it, and that is none other than legendary designer Adrian Newey. Now, of course, we all know that Newey is leaving Red Bull at the end of this season, which was kind of a shock to everybody, but it's probably boiling over from the internal turmoil between the likes of Christian Horner, Helmut Marko, and many other top brass back in Austria. Now, there were two destinations I believe many people were convinced that Newey would likely go to, and that was either Ferrari or Aston Martin, but now it sounds like there is a surprise candidate emerging from the ashes. Now, if they weren't actually serious or they didn't think they would stand any chance at all at actually signing him, I highly doubt James Vowles would have gone public with the fact that he did hold discussions with Adrian Newey. Even if they are light as he described them, it's still something to build off of, and it sounds like, yes, he is in the hunt for Adrian Newey's signature. Now, whether or not they actually have the funds to pay Adrian Newey is a bit of a mystery, because if we look at the sort of totem pole for Formula One right now, or their financial status, yes, we do know that budget caps are in place nowadays, but you still have to spend a lot of money on drivers and team personnel, and I don't think Williams are anywhere near the same level as like the likes of Ferrari, Red Bull, and Mercedes. So if they could actually afford Newey's signature, that is a different mystery altogether in itself. But James Vowles is very keen on trying to get this done. Now, if we go back in history, of course, this is not the first time that Adrian Newey would work with Williams. If this actually does happen, it's not just a pipe dream. He actually made some incredible championship winning cars for Williams back in the 90s. The 1992, I think it was the FW14B for Nigel Mansell, that was absolutely dominant. And while if Williams are looking to get back to those dominant years and fight for championships once again, then Adrian Newey would be a pretty good starting point. Newey himself has been very coy on the matter, we'll leave it at that. He hasn't really provided any sort of indication or hints of where he would want to go. The only thing we've actually heard from him is that when he responded to Lewis Hamilton's comments of Hamilton saying that Newey's at the top of his list of people he wanted to work with, Newey did say he was flattered by those comments, and honestly, who else wouldn't have said the exact same thing as Newey? If someone who's a 7-time world champion says they want to work with you, those are pretty nice words to hear. So it's really anyone's guess what's going on inside of Adrian Newey's head or where his decision is likely swaying towards. I highly doubt he's going to make any big splashes in the media or going to be very public with that until it's actually official. I still think Ferrari is the likely destination for him, or Aston Martin as well with the Honda tie-ins, and obviously Lawrence Stroll building the super team. I don't think that Williams is just in the running yet, but who really knows? If the fact that this is even out there is just mind-boggling to me, and I've seen crazier things happen in Formula 1 before, so you cannot discount Williams at this point, even if they're not technically the front runners. Now, the other name we mentioned at the start of this video is, of course, Carlos Sainz. If you want to talk about free agents on the driver market right now, I believe that Carlos Sainz is most likely the biggest fish out there that everyone with a vacant seat is trying to get. Now, there were a couple of front runners for Sainz as well. We thought maybe a swap deal between Ferrari and Mercedes could likely happen as Hamilton's going to Ferrari and taking Sainz's seat. It could make sense that Sainz just goes the other way and fills in at Mercedes. The other option, of course, is a massive contract from Audi. Of course, they are still Sauber next year, but Audi's coming in 2026. They're dumping a ton of money into their new Formula One program, and they're going to want to win as soon as possible. And of course, they're going to want a high-profile driver to help them get there. They already signed Nico Hülkenberg, who is obviously vastly experienced in the world of Formula One. If they can get a top-level performer like Sainz in there as well, that would be major. But once again, Williams swipes in with a massive surprise, and this one actually sounds like it is closer to possibly being done than Adrian Newey. Now, where we heard that they were in light discussions with Adrian Newey and they're just sort of in the proposal stages and figuring out where his head is at, the rumors are circulating that Carlos Sainz is in advanced talks with Williams. Now, obviously, if you look at things on paper right now, that seems like a pretty crazy decision if he actually does go ahead with it. But of course, we have to remember new regulations coming into place in 2026. It's really anybody's guess who is going to be on top when the new cars and the new engines roll out. Of course, if you remember when the regulations changed back in 2014, Mercedes was sort of a higher up midfield team. They would scrap for podiums. They would get the odd win here and there, but they were not the absolute giants that we knew of for the past 8 or 10 years or so. It was when those regulations changed that Mercedes really turned their fortunes around and took charge of the grid. And it's really anybody's guess who could do that in 2026. So if Sainz knows something about Williams that the rest of the grid and the rest of the media actually doesn't know, maybe he could actually sign there in 2026 if he feels like they're on the right path. We just saw Alex Albon extend his contract at Williams on a new multi-year deal that, of course, will take him into those new regulations. And he was very adamant about stating that Williams is on the right path and he believes in them to turn things around and get back to the front of the field. So maybe internally there are good things going on at Williams. They're finally starting to figure the car out and spend the budget where they need to get things off on the good foot again. Now, once again, we have to remember that yes, while these are not official, they still have to be taken as rumors. Even if there is supposedly advanced talks with Carlos Sainz or just light talks going on with Adrian Newey, nothing is official until everything is actually confirmed from the teams and the personnel and the pen has actually been put to paper. Now, many people, including myself, were convinced that Andrea Kimi Antonelli would be Alex Albon's teammate at Williams in 2025. Of course, he is the Mercedes star in the making, the protege or the prodigal son, however you want to call it or label him. Everyone thought he was a lock to get that seat so they could develop him, help build him up into the Mercedes factory seat in a couple of years' time. But with these Carlos Sainz rumors floating around, it sounds like Williams don't even want to be a development team anymore. They want to just take the charge. They want to prove that they can get to the top of the table, and it doesn't matter if they are still a Mercedes customer team. They want to be a front runner, and they don't care about helping Mercedes develop their young drivers anymore. But once again, we do have to take these Carlos Sainz rumors seriously, especially the advanced talking. That's what's really grabbing all the attention, especially for me. It's not something that's just floating around in the air. Apparently, they've been talking quite a bit, and when you say advanced talks, that makes people think that this is actually going to happen. But everyone's favorite eccentric ex-Team Haas principal, Gunther Steiner, was recently in the media saying pretty much the exact same thing that I said. If they don't do this right and they miss out on both of these signatures, they don't get either Sainz or Newey, they're going to look, well, as he put it, a little bit stupid because they're talking a big talk and they're stating that we're no longer a small fish team anymore. We can attract big names as well. And again, if they fall flat on their face and they don't get any of these done, it's not going to look very good. So take these rumors as you will. I'm still not 100% convinced on either one of these. It's sort of I'll believe it when I see it type situation. But once again, Sainz has not confirmed where he's going to be driving yet, so it really is anybody's guess where he's going to go. The fact that Williams is even in the running for him, I think, is honestly pretty impressive on their part. And once again, who knows? Maybe there's something going on behind the scene that we don't know, and Williams is actually looking pretty strong for 2026. And if they get Adrian Newey to design that car, I mean, why couldn't they be near the top of the grid? He's worked with them for many years in the past. He's designed so many championship-winning cars. He is a legendary designer, and anybody who has this guy on their team has a good chance of finding success. But of course, I want to know what you guys think. Do you believe that Williams are for real? Do you think they can actually build this super team if they manage to attract Carlos Sainz and Adrian Newey? Or do you think this is all just kind of fluff that's floating around out there and they aren't actually in the running? Or maybe Sainz and Newey are both using them as leverage to get better deals? Give me your thoughts down below, guys. Where do you think Sainz and Newey are likely going to go in 2025? Share those thoughts, and of course, I'll remind you again to hit subscribe, share the videos, leave those likes. We'll see you next time on Racing Direct.